Hi guys, welcome to Kennard Dev. Today we are going to look at how to use Flask and Python to create a website. To begin this tutorial, I assume you've already installed Flask and Python on your computer. If you've not done it, no problem. This tutorial is here to help you to download and install Flask on your computer. So to get started, let's open our browser. In our address bar here, just type this URL. I'm going to leave the link in the description below for you to click on. That will open the website for you to download Python. So once you are here, the next thing to do is bring the cursor here, then move it slowly to this particular button, then you click on it. So once you click on it, it's going to download Python setup on your computer. I've already downloaded, so let me just go to my download folder and install it. So let me minimize the browser. So as you can see, I've already downloaded it here. So the next thing you do is to double click on it and wait for it in a second. Okay, so as you can see, here's the setup. Good. So now the next thing to do is to click on add python.exe to path. It's very important to do. Good. So once you click on it, the next thing is click on install now. It's very important because this is where you click before the setup will install. I've already installed it on my computer, so there's no need installing it again. So let me just quit or exit the setup, the installation. Good. Now the next thing to do is to install Flask. Let's open our browser back, go to this website, or when you open your browser, the next thing to do is just type this address. I'm going to leave the link to in the description below. So once you are on the website here, the next thing to do is to type Flask. As you can see, Flask. Once you are connected to internet, make sure you are connected to internet first before you come here. So once you type Flask, just hit enter. It's going to come, or the results will be shown like this. Good. The next thing to do is bring the cursor here. This is where you are supposed to copy the link and install on your computer. So once you click on this one, it's going to copy the link. Good. Now open your terminal. If you can't open your terminal, just on the Windows key. If you are using Windows, just press on Windows key plus S. Then just type terminal. I've already opened my terminal down, so there's no need doing it. So that the next thing, you just right click here, right click on the terminal and paste the link or what you copy over there. So once you paste it, just hit enter. It's going to install Flask for you. So all this is a library, or this is a package that comes with everything that you are supposed to, or that should help you develop the website. Okay, so as you can see, I've already installed it on my computer, so there's no need installing it. Okay, so now let me minimize my browser. So now the next thing to do, once it's a new project we are starting, we need a directory, or we need a folder whereby all our projects or everything we'll be developing, we can save it or we can keep it inside. So I've created a new directory. Let me just open it for you to see. There's nothing inside. This folder is empty. Good. So I also name it Introduction to Flask. You can also name it the same or any name you prefer to name the folder. Good. So now the next thing to do is the ID. That is the Integrated Development Environment. That is what we are going to use for writing our codes. Good. You can use either Sublime Text or Visual Studio Code. I prefer using Visual Studio Code. Good. So if you are using Visual Studio Code, once you open it or once you launch it, the next thing to do is bring the cursor here, click on File, then go to Open Folder. Once you open folder, click on Desktop. Then once you click on Desktop, you see the folder you create on your desktop. You see it over here. So as you can see, this is the one I create, which is Introduction to Flask. So I've already opened it, so there's no need opening. So once you click on it, click on Select Folder. It's going to open it for you. Beautiful. So now the next thing to do is to start developing our website. Good. So the next thing, again, okay, what we should do is to click here, bring the cursor here, then we click on that place, which is a new file. So let's name our application app.py. Okay, so this app.py, this is a Python file, or this is a Python module we are creating. Now let's create another file again called index.html. Okay, so this index.html, that is what is going to help us develop our website, or that is the skeleton part that help us create our website before we use CSS to polish it or to style it to look beautiful. Good. So now let's go back to, or let's click on app.py. Good. Now once we've installed Flask on our computer, we have to start using it. So the next thing to do is let's import Flask, or let's import everything from Flask so that we can start using it. So I'll say from Flask import Flask. This one is starting with capital letter. So the next module we import is, or the next function we import is render underscore template. So as you can see, once I begin typing, there's a suggestion for me. That is the main reason why I like using Visual Studio Code. It will help you in the development process very fast. So as you can see, when I hover here, this is a function. It's also inside the package we've installed, that is Flask. Very, very important. Good. Now let's create an instance of Flask. So we'll say app. So this app, you can decide to name it anything, but it's also a variable. But I decide to name it app. So will be equals to Flask, like that. Then underscore name underscore like that. Okay, so now the next thing we'll do is app.config, like that. The inside here, inside the list, we'll say secret. Let's type this here, secret underscore key, which is equal to a string of any random string. Okay, I will show you later how to use a secret key module inside Python to generate this secret key, because this secret key is very important during the development. We'll see the usefulness or the function of this secret key. So let's just proceed. Okay, so now the next thing we'll do is, now let's create a route. I'll explain, just bear with me. Let me finish typing the code so that I'll explain them. So I'll say at app.routes, like that. So / Okay, so the next thing is define home. Okay, so why is it home? This is, let me assume this is our home page, or this is our first page, landing page, that a user or that a client will visit whenever they open or they visit our website. That is why I'm giving a name home. Then the next thing we'll do is return. Okay, so here, this is where it gets a bit confusing, but it's not that much confusing. So now, once Flask, we are using it as a backend, we have to use it to communicate with the front end, that is the HTML. But before that, I will show you how to use here of the Flask here to communicate with the front end. But before that, let me hard code the HTML here for you before later we'll use another function to render the HTML that we create, the file we create over here. So I'll say h3, like that. Then welcome to my home page, like that. Okay, so with a slash, let me just close the h3, like that. Okay, so as you can see, this is HTML code I'm typing over it. I'm hard coding over it. So now the last thing we'll do before our application will begin running is to type if. You don't need to understand all this. I will explain them later. So if underscore name is equals into brackets as a string underscore main underscore like that. The next thing we'll do is app.run into bracket debug, which is equals to true, like that. Good. Now let me explain the code, or what I just coded out. Once we install Flask, the next thing is to begin using it. So as you can see, I said from Flask. So this is a module. As I hover here, you can see that's a module. Import Flask. This is a class that has all the function or everything that when you use it or when you call it or you import it, you can use it, okay, in your code. Then the next thing is render template. We'll see the uses of this one in a few minutes, so just bear with me. Let's go. So I say app equal to Flask. So this is an instance of the Flask we are creating. Okay, so now the next thing we say app.config into bracket, not into bracket, that's a string of saying a secret key, which is a random string here. Okay, this one I'll show you later how to use the secret key, the secret module in Python to generate the secret key. So the next thing I did here, or I code out here, is I say at app.route. This is how we create a route. So what is route here? Actually, when you visit a website whereby you've been asked to enter your, or you've been asked to click on login or register, once you click on login or register, this particular at app.route is the one responsible for you to or is the one responsible for redirecting you to a specific page. For example, when you say login, register, or dashboard, this is the one responsible for that. So as I can see, or you can see, I say at app.route /. So this is our home page. That is why I put the slash over there. But when we proceed, or we continue the development, if we are about to create a route for login, you see how we code that one to separate. So that is the function of this one, and we create a function which is home page, and we say return h3 welcome to my home page, like that. And the last one, which is if __, you don't worry, you don't need to understand all this. I will explain, or you see the function of all this while we continue, or when we continue the development. And the last one, which is app.run debug, which is equal to true. Let me explain this one. So actually, in Flask, when you are in the development process, whenever you encounter a problem or there's an error, you need to trace that particular error. So this debug, which is equal to true, is also a parameter that you pass to the run function or the run method, whereby when you encounter error, or whereby there's an error somewhere, it will display in the browser. For instance, if you see it in a few minutes. So the next thing I will do here right now is to run the application. So if you are using Visual Studio Code, bring the mouse cursor here and click on it, then wait for some few seconds for it to start. Okay, so as you can see, we have some stuff printed on the console here, which is saying serving Flask app so and so. You never mind, don't worry about that one. The next thing, or the next one to worry about, is running on http://127.0.0.1:5000. So this is our address. This is the address that the application is running on. So the next thing to do is this address, you can just have a look at it, open your browser, then you type it in your address bar here. Or if you are using Visual Studio Code, just bring the cursor here, click on follow link, then wait for some few seconds. As you can see, the hard-coded HTML here, that I've coded, which is welcome to my home page, is what we are seeing, or is what we are seeing in our browser. So that is how we use Flask as a backend language or backend framework to communicate with the HTML. So now let's proceed. So now, how do we do it for Flask to communicate with the HTML without, as you can see, there's no way we'll be coding all. Now let's assume we have a login page that contains a lot of HTML code. We can't code all of them here. So because of that, Flask has another method, another function, built-in function inside Flask that will help you render or communicate with the HTML. So instead of saying or hard coding this one here, let's delete this one. Then we say render into brackets, like that. Then we say this one should be a string, index.html, like that. Okay, so where is from index.html? This is our index.html. That is the HTML file we create here. So the next thing we should do is let's open our browser back, then click on refresh. You wait for it to smooth. Okay, so now during my previous explanation I was saying something about app.run into bracket debug, which is equals to true. So as you can see, once I set return render underscore template, which is into bracket index.html, once I refresh the page, you can see they say what? Template not found. So why are you seeing all these plain? These are all error messages that is going, or that is showing you where exactly the problem is. So when you track it, when you click here, it's saying what? Template not found. I'll explain that one too in a few minutes or in a few seconds. So you say what? ginger2.exception.template not found. So if you click on it, when you track it, this is our backend and it's directing us to line 15 in home, and you say what? Return render underscore so and so. This is where the error is. So in the development process, make sure you put it on debug, which is equal to true. But during when you are hosting it, or during production, in terms of production, when you are about to host it, make sure you put it to false. If not, if there's a problem or if there's an error, your front end or your client will see what actually is going on behind the scene, okay, or behind the back end. So make sure if you are in the production environment, turn it to or change it to false, like that. Okay, so now the next thing we'll do is, as you can see, they say template not found. So how do we do that? So this index.html, you can see this index.html, that is what we want to use this particular method or this particular function to communicate or to render, so that Flask, instead of coding or hard coding plain HTML here, this particular function will help us to do it. But once we change it, we are getting error. So how do we solve that problem? So the next thing you do, or how you solve the problem, is to bring the cursor here. As you can see, they say what? New folder. Click on it. Once you click on it, we are going to create a folder or directory called template. Make sure the name is template, it ends with S. Good. So now what we will do is, instead of leaving this index.html file outside here, just click on it and move it, or what you do is just click on it like this. Then on your keyboard, Ctrl+X, click on the key on the template like this. Then you paste it, which is Ctrl+V. You paste it over there. Once you paste it, if I click on this template, you can see the index.html is not showing here. But if I click on this arrow, you can see it's inside the template folder. So now let's go back to the browser and refresh the page again. Okay, so I'm coming. Let me just check. So what we'll do is, let's kill our application, go back to the browser. Okay, so let me rerun the application again. Let me rerun the application. Okay, just wait for it to start. Okay, so now it started running. So the next thing we do is, let's re-click on the link. Okay, so as you can see, now we are not getting any error, but when you look at the whole page, there's nothing here showing. Good. So that means our application now is, or our backend now is communicating with the front end, which is the HTML. So now let's go back to our Visual Studio Code, our IDE. So now let's go to the HTML. So now as you can see, there's nothing showing on the page. So let's go back to the HTML index. So here you can see nothing is here. So the next thing we'll do is, now let's start writing the HTML code over here. So I'll say doc type HTML like that, then HTML. Okay, so within here I'll say head. Within the head I'll say meter, meter like that. So let me come back to this place. Here should be language. which is, so this HTML we are writing it in English, so you have to specify the language in which you are writing the application, or you are coding the HTML, which is English, sorry. Okay, so here should be char set, which is the character set. So once I will explain this in a few minutes, so just type UTF-8, sorry, -8 over there. Okay, so here is HTTP-equiv. Then okay, so sorry, this one, what we'll do is let's type name, the name, then after the name we say viewport. Okay, so the next thing we'll do is content. The content now will be width, which is equal to device hyphen width equal to device hyphen width, like that. Then comma, initial comma, which is initial hyphen scale, like that, which is equal to 1.0. okay, so now let's create the title. Okay, so title of the website we are, or the project we are building. So as you can see, once I type title and I complete, or I type the last tag, you can see it has already complete. So that's the usefulness, or that's the main reason why I'm using the Visual Studio Code. So here let's type, instead of so let's just type welcome to my home page, like that. Okay, so that is in our header. So here now let's create a body. Okay, so within our body here, what we'll do is we have to start coding whatever we feel like, or whatever we want to write over there. So the first thing we'll do is let's type h3, as I had code over there at the back end, which is the app.py. So I'll say welcome to my Flask application, like that. Okay, so now what we'll do is let's go back to our browser and refresh and see. So as you can see, welcome to my Flask application, like that. So you can now see how easy it is to use Flask. When you look at the code, just 19 lines of code, you are able to communicate or use Flask as a backend to communicate with the front end here, with the front end. Okay, so now let's just build a basic form inside the HTML and see how it's going to work. So I'll say form, like that. Within the form, I'll say inputs. Within the input, I'll say type. The type should be text. Oh, sorry. Okay, so should be text. Then name. Name of what we are putting inside, or we want it to show in the HTML. So that it should be first name, like that. Okay, so let's put a placeholder over there. Okay, now let's prompt the user to enter his or her first name. So enter your first name, like that. Okay, so we need another form again that will ask the user to enter his or her surname. So input, like that. Then type, which is text. Okay, the name should be surname, like that. Okay, so placeholder, which should be enter your surname, like that. So now we need a button. Okay, so the last one should be button. Okay, within here let's type submit over there. So now let's come back inside. See, type should be submit. That's good. So now let's go back to the browser and refresh it. As you can see, now we have an entry field asking the user to enter your first name, his or her first name, and the last name. So if we submit right now, you can see nothing is displaying on the page. Okay, so that is how we use Flask to communicate with the HTML at the front end or at the front end. So I will stop the tutorial here. Then our next tutorial or our next meeting, we will look at how to get an input from the user and display it on the page. Thank you. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and share it with others too, so that we can do more tutorial. Thank you.